This is a Tape Deck podcast.
Hello, and welcome back to Inside the Runner Studio. This is your host, Tom, and with me, as always, are Aaron, Michael, and Diana.
Hello.
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 And we are joined by our friend, Wendy. Hi, Wendy.
Hello.
How are you?
I am doing good. I'm a little tired today because I've been traveling so much, but otherwise I'm really good.
Okay, well,
I am fangirling that we have you on here, by the way. I was so jealous that Anna Runs on Coffee got to meet you at Marathon Weekend.
Oh my
and
gosh.
she took a picture of you together and then sent it to me and was like, look who I found. I'm like,
That's amazing.
you're a jerk face.
I love her. She's so sweet. I just love
She's
her.
so cute.
So
She
funny.
is. She is.
And Wendy, we were chatting, and you're going to add immediate validity to this podcast.
What?
So we appreciate it. No pressure at all, but we
No
appreciate it.
pressure. No. No.
Uh,
Yeah, Aaron's like, I'm going to ask her to be on Inside the Runner Studio. And I was like, good luck.
she actually contacted me.
There you go.
For the record. But I would have asked her. You were on my list of people to ask. I'm like, do you think Wendy would come on? She might be too famous for us.
I love doing stuff like this, though. I love listening to y'all because you're just so down to earth and fun, and you don't take yourselves too seriously, and it's very refreshing to listen to y'all. I'll say that.
Well, that's a very nice compliment. We appreciate that a lot.
Absolutely. So, Wendy, you know the format. We're going to ask you some race and riding-related questions and some non-riding-related questions. But before we do, can you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Sure. So I'm Wendy Larsen. I am from League City, Texas, which is just outside of Houston. It's kind of in the burbs. And I am a wheelchair user. I'm a disabled athlete, and I race in what's called a hand cycle, which is one of the two types of racing wheelchairs that you'll typically see in a marathon, half marathon, 10K, 5K. And so it's a push rim racer or a hand cycle, and I'm a hand cyclist. And I've done all kinds of races from 5Ks all the way up to Boston Marathon, New York City Marathon. I love Disney, so we do Disney races from time to time, spend a lot of time at Disney, spend way too much money at Disney. Pretty much sums it up.
We are very familiar with that sentiment.
Yeah, absolutely. Great. Well, we are so happy to have you. So I just wanted to hear a little bit more about kind of your journey. How long have you been hand cycling, and what inspired you to start?
So I've been hand cycling about 6 years now. And I actually started running in 2007. I was in a really bad car wreck in 2006. And I grew up with rare diseases. I grew up being told I could not play in any sports, that my joints were too weak, my body was too weak. So I never did sports. I would start doing sports. I would very quickly get injured. And then my parents would take me to the doctors. The doctors would tell me I couldn't play sports. It was just this never ending cycle. So after my car wreck in 2006, I nearly lost my right leg. It took 15 surgeries to reconstruct it. And the doctor's parting words to me were, well, you might be able to walk again, but you'll never be able to run a marathon. And, said very sarcastically. So I think at that point, a switch in my brain just kind of flipped, and I decided enough was enough, and I was going to run a marathon.
Like a true runner.
Yeah. I had no running background. I had no business doing that, but I just decided I was, sick of being told what I couldn't do. Mm-hmm. So I decided I was going to do it. So now when I first had my car wreck, I was not able to walk right away. It took me about a year. I had to completely learn to walk again. So once I started walking fairly well, then I started ever so slowly training to run and ran my first half marathon in 2010. And I use the term run very loosely because the reality was I was kind of shuffling along like a turtle through molasses. So I was that person that, was getting swept by the balloon ladies or ending up in the medical tent and being toted off to the ER or one thing after another, because I was also doing all of this with several rare diseases. So that's kind of where I started. And I was still walking at that time. I have a rare connective tissue disorder called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, and it is degenerative. And over time, my mobility became less and less. I started having a lot of issues with what's called dysautonomia and POTS, which means my body does not regulate my autonomic nervous system very well. So my heart rate and my blood pressure fluctuate all over the place. And if I'm upright too long, I pass out. So that combined with the instability from the EDS were causing so many issues. The EDS is actually one of the things that led to my spinal cord injury. So I have a lot of back issues that have gotten worse and worse and worse over time until I now have an actual spinal cord injury from it. Oh. So I switched in 2016, I think it was, to hand cycle after a physical therapist that I'd been working with for about a year. I think he finally got tired of me insisting I was going to run when really I was doing walking. And he said, well, why don't you try hand cycling? And so I found a group that had loaner hand cycles and tried a hand cycle and just fell in love with it from day one.
Wow.
So it all happened at the right time. And as it was supposed to be. I realize that now. This is how it was all supposed to be. Once I got into the hand cycle, then I was really able to seriously improve my fitness and start working towards bigger and better goals because it was just better for my body.
Yeah.
General. And I wasn't constantly fighting with my body. I was finally able to learn to work with my body. So
you weren't having like constant setbacks. Yeah. It was just you were able to go forward. And
Exactly. It was really the path forward that I needed.
Yeah, I think what you said there about working with your body and letting it, work for you rather than fighting it, which is what a lot of us try to do. We've all been talking about injuries and getting over those and getting told, hey, take a little break and not wanting to, and making sure that we're listening and working with our bodies. So I love that.
Yeah. And I don't do well with being told no. So.
I feel like most runners don't, which I think is like
part of
kind
the
of
issue.
an ingrained within us for some reason.
Yeah. I am the person that has actually given myself rhabdo. So that's right there.
How did you get into competitive hand cycling?
I just started doing races and they were, at first just for fun. And I realized that there really was no place I would rather be than on my hand cycle. And I started training more and more and more. And I got better and better and better. And in fact, the first full marathon I ever did on my hand cycle, I actually qualified for Boston.
Wow.
I wasn't even trying to. I didn't even realize it until someone texted me later that day and said, hey, do you know you qualified for the Boston Marathon? And I was shocked because that was not the goal. The goal was just to go out there and complete the race and have fun doing it.
Yeah.
So I was always, since I got on hand cycle, knew that I was pretty good at this. And then it was actually over COVID when I couldn't do anything else, that I just spent hours and hours each day on my hand cycle, that I got really serious about it. And I realized, hey, I'm pretty darn good at this. If I actually hired a coach, hired a dietitian, lost some weight, and got serious about it, I could be really, really good. So that's what I did. And I've just in the last year and a half is when it has really taken off for me. And I've really started having some pretty good results, I guess you could say.
I would say pretty good results.
We haven't quite gotten to that part yet. If you're not familiar with
That's
Wendy
true.
yet, we haven't gotten to that part. Which will come up at some point.
I would assume
Okay.
so.
One of the questions.
Yeah.
I assume.
Okay.
So
Well, the next we kind of got into the next one about how you took it to the next level. And it seems like you kind of just innately were very good at it, and then were like, oh, I need to take advantage of this. Is how you went to the next level with it.
Yeah, it was almost like that. It was one of those things. The first time I sat down in a hand cycle, I just really, really took to it, and I loved it. I think that was probably the most important thing, is I just loved being in the hand cycle so much, because it was just a sense of freedom for me. It was something I could actually do, and I just felt free on it, and I fell in love with it. So I think really more than anything, it was just that. And I still have not lost my love for being in my hand cycle and out training. I get so excited when my coach will give me a really long endurance workout, because I would stay on my hand cycle 8 hours a day if I could.
Oh my God, Wendy.
I would. Yeah.
oh gosh.
All right. So Wendy, then answer me this: what is your favorite race of all time?
So my favorite race of all time, that would be the Boston Marathon 2021. So for those that don't know, that happened to be on my 50th birthday on October 11th. Usually the Boston Marathon is in April, but it got moved in 2021 to October because of COVID. It was on my 50th birthday, and I managed to not just win the race, but I set a course record for my 50th birthday.
Incredible.
On your birthday.
That is
I
awesome.
I did not realize that it was on your 50th birthday.
That's a
Nice.
happy birthday.
That's really awesome.
I mean, yeah, you just can't get a better birthday present than that. I don't
And
think
winning
you
the
can.
Boston Marathon.
Was
Yeah.
that your first time doing Boston?
It was my first time doing Boston. So I had qualified several years in a row, and I had just never applied. I think there was part of me that just kind of didn't feel worthy of it. And I was nervous to go up there. I wasn't sure how I would do. I knew it was supposed to be a hard race because of Heartbreak Hill. And there was just something holding me back. I think more than anything, I just didn't feel like I was worthy of doing Boston because it kind of came so easy to me, and most people have to work for years and years to get there. But it was actually my physical medicine and rehabilitation doctor that finally convinced me. He kept bugging me every time I would have an appointment with him. He would ask, so do I need to fill out paperwork for Boston yet? Are you going to register for Boston this year? So I finally said, okay, I'll apply. We'll see what happens. Because for athletes with disabilities, in order to get into Boston, not only do you have to qualify like a regular runner would, but you also have to submit medical documentation of your disability. So you have paperwork that your doctors have to fill out, and then you have to qualify like a regular runner would, and then they only take the top ones that apply. So just because you get your qualifying time doesn't necessarily mean you're going to get in. Only, they've only got X number of spots, and the fastest ones get in. So, yeah, so that was what finally gave me the push to register, and that was in 2021. And it was kind of, my doctor that was
Really
like,
pushed.
you really should apply. You really should. He's a runner too. So he gets it.
Yeah.
So 2021 was my first time.
That's really awesome.
That's amazing.
Guys, we have the Boston
Two-time
the two-time Boston Hand Cycle champion. What about this last one that you just won? Can you tell us just about that? Sorry, I'm skipping over questions.
Oh no, I actually had a question about training, but go ahead.
No, I want to hear about this last one when you defended your championship.
It was different. It was very different because I feel like last year I kind of flew in under the radar. Nobody was really expecting that. I knew that was a possibility. My coach knew that was a possibility. But other than that, I'd kept it pretty quiet because there's a lot of stress and a lot of pressure that comes with something like that. So this year was very different because I was the favorite to win this year.
Okay.
So it was a lot of pressure, a lot of stress. I knew what to expect going in, though. I knew the race course. I knew the procedure, how the start village area worked, and all of that. That's always so uncertain when you go to a new race like that that's really large that you've never done. There's just all of this uncertainty around how is this really going to happen on race day. So it was very different for me because I came in, everybody expected me to win this year. I came in with a lot of pressure. I knew physically I was ready, and I knew that I was capable of doing it again this year. I was a little unsure mentally if I was prepared or not. But it, obviously I won again. I broke my own course record. So obviously things went pretty well. Now, having said that, I did not get my goal time this year, which I'm still upset with myself about. However, it was a little bit more difficult this year because we had a headwind the entire way.
Oh, okay.
So the headwind really makes a big difference.
Yeah.
I probably would have hit my goal if it wasn't for the headwind. But I was just a little over my goal. So I've got unfinished business. Next year I'm gonna hit my goal at Boston.
Nice.
So
Now, my question was like, so we know like the elite runners field, they're probably training 120, 150, 180 miles a week when they peak out. Like, what is for hand cycling? What would, since you're an elite hand cyclist, like, where's that training for that?
It depends on where I am in my training cycle.
Mm-hmm.
I will have weeks where I'm doing upwards of 300 miles a week.
Wow.
I'll have weeks where I'm doing about 200 miles a week.
Wow.
And,
Oh my gosh.
some weeks it's a little less. Now, most people are not going to do that kind of mileage.
Yeah.
That's unusual, but when you're trying to do what I'm trying to do,
Yeah,
you do a lot of miles.
When
Yeah.
you're an elite athlete,
yeah.
there's a
See,
difference between
and I
us
thought-
peasants.
I thought Aaron and Michael were crazy with their mileage. I always give them a hard time.
Oh gosh.
Yeah. So it's a lot of miles. It's a lot of time. And pretty much everything I do revolves around my training. So my sleep, my diet, everything.
Yeah.
So I don't drink alcohol anymore. So that's probably why I enjoy listening to y'all, because I can,
We were all of us looked like sad when you said that.
I know.
Like,
I know. I can live vicariously through y'all,
Oh,
listening
goodness.
to your
gosh.
beer runs and your taco miles, and
Have you
All
ever
of that.
tried
Love it.
coffee in a hot tub by any
Coffee
chance?
in a
There
hot
you
tub.
Oh my
Yeah.
goodness. Well, thank you for your sacrifice.
I know. But there's a lot that goes into it. If you want to take it to the next level, you just have to make that choice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And decide, okay, everything I put into my mouth, I think, is this what I need that's going to best fuel my body.
Mhm.
And that's what I eat. And I don't drink, and I go to bed early. I tell friends I feel some days like, any day now I'm going to be going to the 4 p.m. special at Golden Corral or something for dinner.
But
Love
this
it.
is what separates
Yeah.
us peasants from the
Yeah.
elites
Yeah,
out there in
that's,
the world.
that's the only
That's-
thing.
Yeah, just that.
Just that.
Wendy treats her body like a temple. I treat mine like a trash can.
I mean,
Oh, goodness.
Whatever makes you happy.
I love
Whatever
it.
makes you happy.
Oh, no, this is so great. So, I mean, 2 Bostons. What other goals do you have either for this year or the next couple of years, or anything you're looking forward to, or new records you want to break, or anything like that?
Well, so I'm doing a 100-mile century ride in July, just because that's something new, something different for me to do. My coach had encouraged me to kind of, set some new different goals and try something different. So I'm doing a 100-mile century ride in July in Houston. So it'll be totally cool.
I know.
Yeah.
Weather.
Oh my
No,
gosh.
nothing hot and humid about that.
Uh,
Yeah.
Oh, goodness.
So I'm doing that in July. It's not a competition. It's just a ride, just to go out and put in the miles. So I'm excited about that. It'll be fun to do, just to do something different. I've never done 100 miles at once before. My husband has, but I have not. And then I'm registered for the New York City Marathon in November. So my goal is I want to win Boston and New York in the same year.
wow.
That'd be awesome.
my money's on you.
That would be amazing.
It
Those
would
are-
be, I know, but
those are some
I'm going to have
goals.
some stiff competition, so you never know. But we'll see. We'll see how
Yeah.
things go. Go and have fun.
Do you have on the opposite side of things, do you have a worst day you remember riding?
So I'm not going to say it was necessarily the worst day, but the most things that went wrong, because it was kind of simultaneously the worst day, but also one of the best days. And that was at the New York City Marathon in 2019, because I went up there. My original goal was to place in the top 3, but I was having a lot of health issues right before then. I had just found out I had ovarian cancer.
Oh my.
Wow.
And then at mile 6, I hit a pothole and messed up my brake, and
Oh, wow.
my disc brake was rubbing the entire race from mile 6 on.
Oh, wow.
So
Ugh.
it was my slowest marathon I've ever done. Now, having said that, a lot of things went wrong. I was super slow. I was super upset when I originally had the mechanical issue and I realized I was out of the race as far as how I was
Yeah.
going to place, what my time was going to be. But at that point, there was nothing I could do. I could either just gut it out and take it slow and get the rest of the race done and enjoy it, or I could, pull over and, call the sag wagon kind of thing. So I decided I was going to continue on and just took it really slow. But it allowed me to really take in the crowds and really just enjoy the atmosphere and take it all in a way that I don't usually do during a race, because usually I'm so focused on racing and finishing. I miss a lot of the stuff going on around me.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
it was one of those weird races. It was kind of simultaneously one of the worst, but also turned into one of the best
awesome.
because I got a very different experience out of it.
Yeah. A little bit of a
That's pretty cool.
blessing in disguise, a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's pretty interesting. What is the one thing you would like other runners to know about hand cycling? That is actually a good question.
Yeah, it's a great question.
So when you see hand cyclists or push rim wheelchairs in a race, one of the things you need to remember is that we do not have the ability to make sharp turns, to stop real quick, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So it's very difficult when we're in a race and runners dart out in front of you.
Oh, yeah.
Or make abrupt movements, or think that we can just make a quick turn to get out of their way. So it's really important for runners to understand that. Now, I am usually out in front. I don't usually encounter runners, but a lot of other wheelchair athletes do.
Yeah.
And it always seems to be an issue. The other thing too is don't wear headphones during a race, because then you can't hear when people call out to you
Yeah.
Yeah.
or alert you to whether there's a wheelchair coming up behind you, or maybe there's a blind athlete coming up behind you, or something like that. If you have big old Beats headphones on,
Yeah.
which I'm always shocked the number of times I see those at races, you are very unaware of your surroundings and can't hear when you need to be able to hear.
Yeah.
So that's the main thing that I wish runners would understand and think about when they're out there, that there are other people out on the course other than just you, and you need to be part of a community of runners. It's not all just about you.
Yeah.
Going around you.
Oh gosh.
And know that those wheelchairs and those hand cycles, they turn like Mack trucks.
Yeah.
They can't just get out of the way. They can't just suddenly stop. So give them a little space. Be courteous.
Yeah, one of the worst things I've ever seen in my probably all of my run career, like I don't know, 50, 60 races. Marine Corps Marathon made the worst decision in the entire universe.
That year, yeah.
The year they did the inaugural 50K. They let the 50K runners go before they let the hand cyclists and the wheelchairs go.
Oh my
So
gosh.
the 50K runners were on the course because they wanted to allow them more time. So they figured that was a great idea. So they
my
let them go
goodness.
first.
And then it was this
and then it
big-
was just this
yeah.
awful. I mean, I remember
Oh.
because the beginning of Marine Corps is hilly. And so there's some big
Yes.
hills that you come down. Have you done Marine Corps?
I have not done Marine Corps, but I have a lot of friends that have, and I'm
Yeah.
very familiar with the elevation profile
Yeah,
of it.
so it's a very hilly beginning.
Yeah.
So that first 5 miles when we were released, all of a sudden the hand cyclists and the wheelchairs came up behind us, and they're flying because obviously you're on wheels, so you're going way faster, and people could not hear, and I lost my voice screaming on your left to so many people, or
Yeah.
get out of the way, or just like at some point I was cursing at people because people were not listening, and these
Yes.
as they're coming down hills. And I remember getting the survey and in like the biggest letters possible, I wrote, "Never do that again."
Yeah.
Yeah, it's very scary.
So
It is
dangerous.
very scary. It's scary. It's dangerous for us. It's dangerous for the runners.
Yeah.
A race like that should never be releasing runners first. You
Yeah.
always release wheelchairs and hand cycles first.
Yeah.
Because some of those hills like that, we can hit speeds of like 40 miles an hour going
Yeah.
downhill.
Yeah.
Wow.
And you just can't get out of the way as quickly as you need to if you come up on runners going down a hill.
Yeah.
And it's dangerous for everyone.
Yeah.
For everyone.
I remember finishing that race and talking about it for like weeks about how dangerous it was that had happened. So
Yeah.
Wow.
it's good advice for sure.
All right, so I think we're gonna move into the random questions. And I know you're a Disney fan, so I'll start us off with: who was your favorite Disney character, either live action or animated?
Tinkerbell.
Ah,
Ooh.
Good
Yes.
one.
I like Tinkerbell because she's got some sass.
Mm-hmm.
She can fly.
Love it.
But mostly the sass.
Very nice.
It's
Yeah.
mostly the sass. I relate
Yeah,
to her
it's mostly
because if I don't get attention, I die. So,
You know.
constant clapping.
true.
Not being guilty of that.
But the sass is good. Did you ever do the Tinkerbell race in Disneyland? Were you?
Good. I
Love
whine about that at least once a week, that I'm upset that it's gone. So,
it was so
every
great.
Mother's Day, I
Mhm.
whine because there's no more Tinkerbell half marathon to do on Mother's Day.
It was such a great race, and I love
It was
doing. That
Yes.
and Princess, and you got like the pink Coast to Coast. Oh, it was so great.
Tinkerbell was my favorite Run Disney race ever. That was
Yeah.
the best.
So great.
Well, just Disneyland races, I think, were better than Disney World races anyway.
I love
So,
it. I love the Disneyland races.
Me
Yep.
too.
I never got a
Me
chance to
too.
do it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
fun. Is there one album you could listen to any day or time and get lost in?
Oh, I'm dating myself here, but I already told y'all I'm 50. In Excess Kick.
Oh, I remember when that
you
came
were
I love
out.
that album. I love that
Very
album.
cool.
Like you and this guy.
I love it. Great answer.
It was so
Great
huge when it came out, though.
Yes.
Remember how big it was when it like
Yes.
hit? It was
Yes.
like it was
Yes, it was
crazy. It was everywhere.
Michael's old too, so you
Yeah.
know.
Okay.
I'm 49. I'll be 49 in like a couple weeks. So
Yeah, see?
yeah. God, that was so huge. That record. That was amazing.
I mean, I'm familiar with it, but not as familiar as the you
Shaw,
guys are.
Pshaw.
You need to make her listen to it. Make her listen to it.
I know,
That's so
right?
funny.
It's a classic.
If you could be the member of any TV family, which would it be and why?
I think the Jetsons.
Ooh, that's a great one.
Ooh.
That's
don't
a
know.
great
I-
one.
I loved the Jetsons, and they
Wow.
just got to fly around everywhere and do all this futuristic stuff. And I don't know.
The Jetsons was like, I love that cartoon.
I know. I
Yes.
loved the Jetsons.
And they had such fun.
I know, and they got to be in outer space. How cool
Yeah.
would that be?
Yeah, it's not like the Flintstones where you're stuck in the Stone Age.
Yeah.
You know?
I know.
It's the complete opposite.
Yeah.
I couldn't do that
That's true.
because I couldn't power a car with my feet all the time.
Yeah.
That would be a problem. How are you going to drive that Flintstones car with your arms? I
This
don't
is
know.
true. All right, so now we head into the James Lipton Memorial questions, inspired, of course, by Inside the Actor Studio. And we begin with what is your favorite word?
My favorite word, champion.
Yes.
Love it.
Yes,
Love it.
queen.
Love that.
And
what
you
is-
are the
yes.
champion. Yes.
And what is your least favorite word?
Quit.
Like that.
That's
yeah.
a good one.
Good one.
Got told to quit too many things too many times in my life.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Don't deal with quitting well.
All right, Wendy, what turns you on?
I'm getting a little personal here.
I know.
Somehow we
So
did
I-
a total random order of questions this time,
I'm-
and Tom still ended up with this
I
question.
always get this one, and I try to not make it weird.
Try-
So I just rushed into it.
There you go. Just get it out of the way. Just get it.
Good.
Okay, I'm going to say just being outdoors.
That's awesome, yeah.
Just being outdoorsy. Anyone that is fit and likes to be outdoors, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd say that's a turn on.
Okay, and what turns you off?
Laziness.
Mm.
I don't deal well with laziness. That's no.
I'm sensing a pattern here.
Yep.
Good.
Oh my gosh, I love it. What sound or noise do you love?
I love the sound of rainfall, crickets chirping, frogs croaking, kind of anything like outdoorsy, like
Yeah.
anything that makes it sound like I'm outside in a tent camping.
Love it.
love
Oh, yeah.
Love those night sounds.
They sound like summertime sounds to me too, which I appreciate.
Yes.
What
Yeah.
sound or noise do you hate?
I am one of those people, nails on a chalkboard. I just,
Oh, yeah.
I can't. Just even thinking about it just gives me the heebie-jeebies.
What is your favorite curse word?
Good one.
I mean, it's
I say
It
it
is
way too much. You can
By
ask my
far the
husband.
most popular. Yeah.
I mean, I know it's unoriginal. Everybody says that, but it's a good one. You have to admit.
Everybody uses it. That's why they say it.
Yeah.
It applies
Yeah.
to so many different situations.
Yeah.
That's true.
A word for all occasions.
Exactly. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
I would like to be, I think, a dietitian.
Oh.
Yeah, just because my dietitian has helped me so much
Oh,
over the
awesome.
last year and a half.
Mm-hmm.
And I think so many people could benefit so much from seeing a registered dietitian.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I like that one. What profession would you not like to attempt?
A garbage collector.
Yeah.
That's definitely a
Yeah.
fair one.
Uh-huh.
That feels
Yeah.
fair.
These
Feels
people
fair.
are way underpaid because who
Yeah.
wants to deal with somebody's nasty
Smelly
garbage
trash.
all day?
Yeah.
Yuck.
All right, Wendy. I get the privilege of asking your final question. But before that, what's your dog's name?
Yeah, sorry about that. That would be Pongo.
Pongo.
There's never.
Like Disney.
I know. There's
Yes.
Also, never apologize for your dogs. We are all dog lovers.
We love dogs.
And
Pongo is a Harlequin Great Dane. He's
Oh
not a
my
Dalmatian, but he gets mistaken for a Dalmatian because he's white with black spots, which is called a Harlequin Great Dane. And
Okay.
he's just over a year old, and he's a mess. And I thought he was going to be out of the picture and calm and quiet. And no, he has to come get up in my face and go drink and everything while I'm trying to record.
Oh, that's
They
the best.
know when you're trying to do something.
And-
Ours was on the floor like 5 minutes ago, like dragging around one of his toys. I was like, it's gonna squeak any second. Like they know.
Yes,
Like
I know.
Michael and Aaron's cats attack them on the regular
Yes,
while we're
it's
recording.
true. Yeah,
Like-
it's true.
I was actually about to say, this is the calmest they've been in a long
Yeah,
time.
one
and
has
I'm
not
really
flown across
sure.
here. So.
But oftentimes they'll go chasing
That's
each other
funny.
and go like in between the two of us.
That's funny.
Oh,
So we're
goodness.
used to it for sure.
All right, Wendy. Real final question, but before we ask it, thank you very much for being on. This has been incredible.
So
You're
great.
welcome.
So, Wendy, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
I would like to hear him say, "You made a difference." Just knowing that I did something that made a difference, that made a positive impact on someone else's life.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Well, I think you inspired all of us.
I'm
so
sure. Yeah, absolutely.
yeah, incredible.
Before we let you go, is there anything you'd like to plug? Any social media?
Final words of wisdom.
Well, you can find me on Instagram at Disney Hand Cyclist. And that's primarily where I post, is on Instagram. So look me up. I'm there. Send me a message. Follow me. Whatever floats your boat.
I am so excited that we had you on. I honestly, so the first time like you commented on something and I looked up your profile, I was like, this says she was like, I literally texted them. I sent them a screenshot and was like, this says she won the Boston Marathon and she's listening to our podcast. I feel like something is wrong with this situation. I was like, do you think she actually listens? And then we started interacting and you were like, I really like it. I was like, guys, I don't know what's happening here.
It's the Disney connection.
That's it.
You know?
There it
The
is.
Disney connection.
Yeah,
it's funny.
love it.
We love it. Thank you so much for listening. It's really a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah, we're so happy to have you.
Well, thank you for having me. It's been fun talking to y'all.
All right. So I can never end these things, but we'll just say again, thank you so much, and we will talk soon. Bye.
Bye. Thanks, Wendy.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.